Hey everybody, this is Rocket Science. Now today we're going to be talking about rocket science and the forces involved and how it makes thrust and all the other forces go together. Now, the first four forces of the aerodynamics is one weight, which is the mass of the object that is being affected. Thrust is how much force there is to how much force is propelling the object if it is moving. Because if it's just sitting there, it doesn't move. Lift shouldn't have any effect on a rocket because it should be flying in a vertical path. But in some cases there are rockets that have to curve while they're still in the gaseous atmosphere, and those rockets will use the aerodynamic force of thrust as well. Drag is how much the fins on the rocket actually reduce the airspeed, because the more fins and stuff you have to block the air or to guide the air, the more drag you will have. Now, the thrust is always provided by the propulsion system. Or sometimes a rocket won't have a propulsion system, as in water rockets and that kind of stuff. That stuff is still has a propulsion system. It's just not attached. You have the body which holds it all together, the nose cone, which reduces the effect of drag, and fins most of the time fins to direct the air to provide better aerodynamics or to control the rocket. Now, the laws of motion also have a lot of effect on this. The first law of motion states that objects that are at rest will stay at rest, and objects that are in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Now, the thrust, that's what gives the unbalanced force. Thrust, gravity, the weight, that's gravity, will all have a effect and will all contribute to the unbalanced force. The force is actually a combination of the weight and how fast it's accelerating. So you can, if you know a rocket is going at a steady 5 meters and weighs a total of 5 kilograms, you can figure out what the actual force would be. Now, the third law of motion states that every action has a equal reaction. So that's how the propulsion system works. The propulsion system makes gases, the oxygen in the air, expand. And when the oxygen is expanding, it's also pushing against the rocket, because the oxygen is going this way, but that unbalanced force, but the third law of motion pushes the rocket. Now, they also have this thing called the center of gravity. The center of gravity is where all the control, that's basically the point where if it were to start spinning, that's where it would start spinning. If the two long sides, the two long sides started spinning from the tips, it would start spinning at the center of the gravity. The center of the gravity is also where you can balance it perfectly. It's also known as the average place of weight. Center of pressure is where all the drag happens. Center of pressure is usually close to the fins, because the fins create the amount of drag, and and if the center of pressure is too close to the center of gravity, the rocket will become unstable. But this all works together to provide the thrust that is needed to get stuff rocketing. Anyways, that's all for today on rocket science.